The Trump administration is working toward keeping its promise to deregulate certain sectors. By the way, did you know that the Environmental Protection Agency in March announced what it called, quote, the greatest and most consequential day of deregulation in U.S. history? Now, a Time magazine op-ed warns that deregulation could, listen to this, bring some species to the point of extinction. You heard that right. The article is using our recent past to predict the future. In the 1800s, a lack of regulation led to the dramatic decline of the bison population, for example, and the extinction of the passenger pigeon. And our next guest says today the deregulation could even threaten several species of wolves, like the gray wolf, the Mexican wolf, and the already critically endangered red wolf. So what does this mean for us? Let's bring in the author of that Time article, Dan Flores. The New York Times bestselling author is an environmentalist, historian, and host of the new podcast, To the American West with Dan Flores. Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
No, it's a great pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Dan, let's just dive into what you think is at stake. How can the expected deregulation by the EPA lead to a declining wolf population? And why should people care about this, besides the idea that we should, of course, try to protect all animals, but why else should people care?
Well, what I have tried to do is to use the historical story to explain what happened in America, in the United States specifically, in an era when we had no regulations whatsoever to prohibit capitalism, widespread market forces from taking on nature, and the effect was not pretty. It's not the sort of thing I think Americans want to happen in our own time and in the future. I mean, we lost many of our grand charismatic species in the 19th century. The passenger pigeon is probably the national emblem and poster bird for something like that. This was a bird that had been in North America in the billions of numbers for more than 15 million years. And it couldn't survive 300 years of market capitalism. Passenger pigeons became extinct in 1914. My grandparents were still alive when passenger pigeons flew through the skies of Louisiana, where I'm from. But I can't ever have the chance to see passenger pigeons again, nor will any of us in the present. So this is the fear of an unregulated capitalist future. Having something like what happened in the past occur to us now.
So Dan, the question I think that a lot of people will ask is, and you make a good point of explaining exactly why some of these animals go extinct, is they just say, well, why not let Darwinism just happen? If something is going to be extinct, let it. But you make the point, and I think it's important for people to understand, that these animals would not be going extinct if it were not for human forces and capitalism and the economics of how we live today. Human civilization has a strong role to play in the extinction of some of these creatures.
Yes, I mean, that's a topic that I take up in the podcast that I do called The American West, and in a recent book of mine called Wild New World. I mean, what we're confronting really is in evolution. I mean, extinctions happen as a kind of a background phenomenon, but in the present time, we're facing a kind of a moral decision when we push species because of our own hubris or our greed to extinction. These are creatures that, as the Endangered Species Act of 1973 put it, have a right to exist. And this is part of our history as Americans. We have long enlarged the circle of ethical and compassionate treatment to ever more groups, including with the Endangered Species Act, wild animals in America. I mean, we are, after all, animals ourselves. And so when we extend compassion to protecting other species, we're protecting our kin, as Native people long put it, and we're also protecting species that give us some insights into ourselves as fellow travelers in the evolutionary river of life.
Dan Flores, really important work you're doing there. Thank you very much. Appreciate you.